Shalom, Chayei Sarah. Like all the Parshiot, a special Parsha with special unique questions. And we're going to try and understand the depth of some of the strange things, seemingly strange things we see in the Parsha. So the Parsha begins, Yu Chayei Sarah, Me'esham Shana, 70 Shana, 20 Shana, 7 Shanim Shnei Chayei Sarah. The Chor is telling the story that this is Chayei's life. And it tells the years. Why does it have to repeat Shnei Chayei Sarah? You see in the beginning of the sentence, this is the life of Sarah. Why do we have to repeat Shnei Chayei Sarah at the end? Another question that often is mentioned is, why do we call this Parsha Chayei Sarah? We're really talking about the death of Sarah. The next sentence is Vayamot Sarah, Vatamot Sarah. It talks about the funeral and the death. A similar question arises in the Parsha we're going to read in a few weeks' time, in Parshat Vayechi, where Yaakov Avinu dies, and the Parsha is called Vayechi, and Yaakov Avinu lived, and we know it's talking about his death. Another point that rises, that we should mention, is that there's a lot of duplication, a lot of doubles. The number 2 appears all the time. We mentioned already Shnei Chayei Sarah, which according to the Parshat means the years, the shanim. But normally when you talk about Shnot Chaim, here the word the Torah uses is Shnei Chayei, because the Shana is feminine. And there could be a hint here to two. The word Sheni. These are the double years of Chayei Sarah, of Sarah. And we'll try and understand that. And we know that the first thing that happens after this is Avraham Avinu goes to Bnei Chet, and he does a negotiation to buy the Ma'arat HaMachpelah, the double cave. Again, there are 2 caves. And the cave is in a field, and the call is called Sadeh HaMachpelah, the double field. Again, the duality. And the fact that we have a cave and a field, 2 things. More than that, we see that this Parsha, more than any other Parshas, although it is mentioned also in another Parsha, talks about Zugiyut, about marriage, about couples. Again, the number 2 coming in. Obviously, the special relationship between Abraham and Sarah that culminates in this emotional request for Abraham to buy the cave for Sarah, and the spade and the bechi of Abraham. But moreover, immediately afterwards, we have a long, detailed description of how Abraham sent his servant to find a shidduch, to find the number 2 for the zug for his son Yitzchak. And we see after the special relationship between Yitzchak and Rivka. In fact, when they first see each other, the extreme reactions, how he looks at her, how she falls off the horse, how she covers off the camel, how she covers herself. And immediately after that long story, there's a shorter account that then Yitzchak worries about a second zugiyut for his father, and he finds Keturah, whether Keturah is Hagar, he was faithful to him, or whether she's somebody else, according to the different opinions, it doesn't matter. But we see the duality and the zugiyut coming over and over in the Parsha. We want to understand what this means and where this is coming from. To start approaching an answer, I want to share with you a story, a midrash told in the Zohar that talks about what happened. How did Avraham Avinu discover the Ma'arat HaMachpelah? Why did he go there? If you read the Parshat, it seems like he's going to any place. He happens to be near Hebron, he goes to Ephron, there are the people over there. Give me something, give me a place. But we have an insight from the Zohar that it's actually more than that. And the Zohar goes back to last week's Parsha, Vayera, where Abraham is sitting in the front of his tent, just after his brit, 3 days after his Brit Milah. And he sees 3 men walking. They're actually 3 angels, but he doesn't know that yet. And he runs to them and he says, please come. And he does the amazing mitzvah of Hachnasat Orchim to a degree that none of us can imagine, right? Somebody who's a 99-year-old man in the pain of a Brit Milah after the third day, which is the most painful day. And he invites them in and he runs to Sarai, etc. And then he says, Ve'ela bakar ratz Abraham. He runs to get the meat, to get the cow. Maybe this is the source of normally today the woman does the baking and the man does the barbecue. We see that he asked Sarah to make the chalot, the bread, and he went and got the cow. But the Midrash says that the cow didn't come to him so easily. The Zohar explains that the cow ran away from him, and Abraham ran after the cow. And maybe they learned it from the emphasis of the pasuk. Vayarutz Abraham, ela bakar ratz Abraham. He ran to. Why did he have to run to the cows? The cows in a closed area. Why do you have to run after them? But somehow this cow escaped, and he ran and ran and ran all the way to Hebron. It's quite a distance from Beersheba, and he follows the cow into Marat HaMechpelah, and he didn't know about Marat HaMechpelah. And eventually, although the cow's there, the cow stops. But then he sees the lights, and he sees Adam Harishon. Because we know that Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve are buried in that same cave. And here we have two different versions of the story, and we'll try and understand them both. The first says that Adam and Chava were both in the Mara, but not together. They were apart from each other, in different ends of the Mara. And the reason why they were separated, because there was tension between them still from the original sin, that Adam accused Chava of bringing him to the sin and everything that they'd gone through, and all the consequences, the eternal consequences of that sin. And Abraham manages to bring Adam and Chava together again, and then they stay in the cave in Marat HaMachpelah, but together. Of course, we're talking about Adam and Chava who died many years prior to this, and obviously this is not to be taken as Parshat. The second version of the Midrash, also the Zohar, says that Adam saw this, and he saw Abraham saw this, and he said, I want to be buried here when my time comes. We're talking about way before, we're talking about 75 years before, 76 years before Abraham died. And Adam says, no, please don't do that. I'm embarrassed enough. I have this shame from the sin that I did. And now you want to come, you at Tzaddik and Sarah, and lie here next to us and even enhance this embarrassment that we have. And immediately what Abraham did, he prayed to Hashem to forgive Adam and to diminish the damage so that he wouldn't have this shame. And then Adam agreed that Abraham could be buried here. And from this point, right, to the death of Sarah, 28 years, Abraham knew that this is a place he's going to have to bury Sarah. And he kept it a secret. He kept it a secret because if Ephron and the Chittim knew this, the price would have gone up. They probably would not have sold it to him. Who knows what would have happened. And that's why he came supposedly to Ephron and said, yeah, I just need a place, any place. Oh, there's this little cave in the end of your field, probably won't disturb you if you don't mind giving that to me. Ephron knows nothing about it. He's only happy to get rid of this cave. It's not suitable for agriculture. And in spite of that, he makes a good deal out of it, and he gets 400 shekel, 400 shekels, obviously worth a lot more than 400 shekels today, of Ve'el Socher. So we can see this in parentheses, that a person can't lie, has to be honest, but you don't have to, you can negotiate. I mean, you should negotiate with wisdom to achieve the positive things that you want to achieve. Again, without any doing any sins, without any lies, but you don't have to run and tell Ephron, this is the one I have, I don't have any other option. You even Avraham Avinu, with all his tzidkut, with all his righteousness, can negotiate. And let's close the parenthesis and then come back to the point. What is the connection between Adam and Abraham? What is the connection? What does it mean that they're lying apart, they're lying together? they're dead, they're in the graves. What is the connection to these guests that came to visit Avram, who were actually angels? Remember that they told us about the birth of Yitzchak. So in order to answer all these points, we need to understand what is this duality. And the duality actually is that this whole world is built of duality, right? Everything in the world comes in pairs. We have good and bad, we have black and white. When Hashem created the world, Hashem took the Tohu Vavohu and separated into Or v'choshech, Yom v'layla, Shamayim v'aretz, right? Day and night, light and dark, heavens and earth, land and seas. The word lahabdil, to separate into two extremes, appears over and over again. And even in modern physics today, we know that everything comes in pairs. We have charges, electric charges, positive and negative. We have magnetic charges that are north and south. Matter and antimatter, right? The scientists today are pretty certain, it was a theoretical belief, that if there's matter, there has to be the opposite of matter that cancels out matter. And today they have some proofs. You don't see a lot of it, because as soon as the two get together, they disappear. But we see zugiyut, we see two pairs coming. And when you have two, there is always a commonality between the two and a contrast between the two. For example, you have day and night, they're complete opposites, but they're both times of the day. You have light and dark, or colors black and white. They're both opposite colors, but they're both colors. You have man and woman with the opposite trends, opposite natures, but they're both people. And the idea is that the commonality brings them together, but the difference allows for creativity, for growth, because therefore when there's a difference, you can interact with each other. Okay, like a man and woman, because they bring their differences, they have children who are a combination of them. And then when this child marries somebody else, who's also a combination of another two people, you get another combination. And we get infinite combinations of people in the world, and that is the beauty, that differ comes from the differences. But if we were so different that there was no commonality, we'd never get together. And that is the beauty of the Zugiyut. And that's how Hashem created the world. And Hashem said to man, the final separation was man and woman. Okay, after light and darkness, etc., he took man and woman, and according to the Chazal, they were stuck together back to back, and he separated them, just like he separated the Tohu Vavohu into light and dark. And he said, okay, now you're separate, but you actually come from one common source, and you have to get together again. And getting together again is going to be different. And this is the duality in this parsha, but it's more than that. It's more than that, because this duality is the other duality that we have, and it's parallel to this, is the heavens and the earth. Now, till now we spoke about heavens and the earth as the physical heavens, the skies and the earth. But the heaven is also a mashal to spirituality, to ruchniut. And the earth is to practicality, to gashmiut, to the things that are in this world. And the question is, where are we? Are we in the heavens, or are we on the earth? And the truth is, we have to be in both places. And that's what this comes to talk about. The Zohar in this week's parsha says something else. It says that a person will not do a sin unless he's a golem, unless he's a dummy. What does that mean? So I want to tell you something that happened in shul this week. We're davening now. We started going back to the minyanim, some of the minyanim in the shul, some out the shul. One of the minyans I was at this week was in the shul. And people were very, very careful because of the corona to keep it 2 meters apart. And everyone had their masks on. And in the front sitting a person, not a young person, he's well in his 60s, and he's keeping his distance, and he's very sensitive with his mask. And then comes in a youngster, little bit late to the davening. He's got his talis and his tefillin, and he sits right in front of the person, the older person. And his mask is under his nose. And he's not aware of what's happening around him. And he joins the davening, and he's davening with a lot of kavanah, and his lovely davening. But he's missing 50% of his reality. He didn't realize that there's somebody behind him until that older man got up and very quietly moved to another row, to the end of the row, so they wouldn't have the danger. And I think you see something similar to this when you see a child, right? Sometimes you see children playing, and they'll get into their Lego, their dolls, and they become so enveloped in it that they don't even realize that there's anybody else around them. And they don't care if anybody else around them, because they're the whole world. And to a certain extent, when a person lives in this world and he doesn't realize that there's another world, he's like that child, or he's like that youngster that came into the shul and surrounded himself and doesn't realize that there's a greater world beyond him. And that's what the Zohar says. If a person does a sin, he's a golem. What's a golem? He only sees what he needs to see. A golem's like a robot, right? If you make a robot, he programmed, okay, to look, to have senses, to see if he's going to bump into something, to do what he has to do. But he doesn't have any programs to tell him, what about the world beyond your existence? He's a golem. Only a person who's a golem, who only sees this world and doesn't see the beauty, the extent, the vastness of the spiritual world, the world that we cannot see with our eyes, with our physical eyes, only he is capable of doing a sin. But if you knew that, you really felt the spirituality of the greater world, you could never sin. So only a golem can sin. And that is the story of the Zugiyut. That is the story of Shnei Chayei Sarah. Chayei Sarah, each one of her years, we saw that she wasn't living for herself. Everything that she could do, everything that she did was with an awareness of what's going to be afterwards. And that's why Rabbeinu Bachya says in this Parsha that the tzaddikim, you only realize their greatness when they die. Because you see them doing these physical things, and you only realize when they die that when they start going to the other world, right? They look back and you see that those people did everything not for taking benefit in this world, but for the other world. Then you realize their specialness. And that is all the duality that is mentioned in this Parsha. That's why the cave is Marat and Machpelah. There's two caves, one corresponding to the actions, the physical things we do in this world, and the other corresponding to our intention that whatever we do is for the greater world. The sadeh, the field is double, or there's a cave and a sadeh. The cave is us interacting. The sadeh is the bigger world that maybe we see or maybe we don't see. Depends how accurate our eyesight. And where is this? This is in Hebron. Chazal say Hebron is the connection place between heavens and earth. The word Hebron comes from the word Chibur, connection. Chaver, right? That why is it called a Chaver? Because you're connected to him. And this is the place where the two worlds meet. And that's why it's appropriate for the Avot and Adam B'Chava to be buried in Hebron. Not just to be in Hebron, but to be buried in Hebron. First of all, they're the personalities that can connect these two worlds. And the time of death is the time when these two worlds connect. And that's why that's the place of their burial. And with that in mind, we understand what is the connection between Adam and Abraham. And why the story of Hebron, why they had to tell us the story about the cow running after Abraham ran after the cow to Marat and Machpelah and meeting Adam Rishon, all this while the three angels are busy waiting for their for their barbecue. It tells us now. When Hashem created the world, Hashem created a place where the physical world could be a place of growth, a place of implementation, if you like, of the spiritual world. And to do that, you always have to connect to the other world. And Adam was meant to do this. And when he did that sin, he became a golem. In other words, he cut off his connection. And Abraham was the first person who really started correcting that. And how did he do it? When he reached the pinnacle, just 1 year before he could have a baby, he had a Brit Milah. Okay, the Brit, the Olah, the skin over the sexual organ, symbolizes the physical covering that can take the beauty of love and turn it into something that's just over here. Just like if you have so to speak, you have the Olah, that the skin that covers and blocks off any spirituality from coming to this organ. And when Abraham eventually at 99, he reached after Nisayon, that he could have a Brit Milah. Then, 1 year later, he could have his son. Only then, after the Brit Milah, Sarah could get pregnant with Yitzchak. And what is Yitzchak? Yitzchak is his son. He's the eternity. He's the next generation. And so the Malachim come to Abraham straight after his Brit Milah. He's still feeling the pain because he has reached the stage where he can take off the Olah. He is now capable of being the continuation of Adam and Chava, what Adam and Chava were meant to be. And therefore he can run to this cave at this moment in time. And he can take Chava, Adam and Chava that are separated, because the heavens and the earth, the two are separated, and put them together again. He can make that chibur. He can turn Marat Machpelah into Hebron, into the chibur, into the connection. He can therefore get Hashem to forgive Adam and Chava for their sin. And they're not embarrassed anymore because the damage is diminished. And therefore, Dafka at that time, he discovers the grave. And therefore, he runs to the grave and he keeps that grave. And that is the point of time when all this comes together. Yiratzon, maybe Hashem's will, that we'll all manage to open our eyes, our physical eyes and our spiritual eyes. Look all around us all the time, not be isolated by our egos, by our physicality, but use our strengths, use our physical strengths, our wealth, our wisdom, our beauty, whatever each and every one of us may have, and use it to connect to other worlds. And then, when a person dies, that's Chayei Sarah. That's why the Parshat is called Chayei Sarah. She doesn't die. This is when she really starts living. Shabbat, Shalom, U'Barach.